It's Friday, May 3. In the headlines in local news, plans are in place to replace the wall of the 95-year-old Hermitage Dam. In business news, Supreme Ventures plans to expand operations in Ghana. Regionally, St. Lucia closely watches Liat 2020 developments. And in sports, Windies A win 3 straight matches. This is the weekend news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Gabrielle Thompson-Jackson. Plans are in place to replace the wall of the Hermitage Dam. The dam, which was built with a 50-year guarantee, is now 95 years old. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda, describes this as a national risk. He says design work costing approximately $150 million is being done on the facility this year, with a goal of putting it to tender next year for its expansion or replacement. Minister Samuda says engineers plan to expand the wall up 300 meters, and that will significantly expand the dam's capacity. Minister Samuda shared the plans while speaking at a virtual forum dubbed Tackling Jamaica Water Woes at the University of the West Indies Mona campus this week. Hermitage Dam holds 393.5 million gallons of water and supplies thousands of residents in Kingston and St. Andrew. Opposition Member of Parliament Fitz Jackson has chided the Bank of Jamaica for not being assertive as a regulator to protect customers of these financial institutions. Mr. Jackson said lawmakers and regulators such as the BOJ are obligated to legislators and regulate entities for the benefit of society. The matter was discussed at a meeting of the Economy and Production Committee of Parliament this week. Simone Absalom Gale has that report.
Mr. Jackson says while it is understood that the Bank of Jamaica, in its capacity as a major regulator for the financial sector, monitors financial systems, it should also ensure that licensed financial entities are held accountable for the protection of their customers.
The focus or the concern is when the public at large experience the losses and losses that are incurred through the banks or in transaction with the banks. And in the resolution, you will see, Dr. Lewis, it referenced Section 36 of the Banking Services Act, that duty of care provision in the Act, which imposes an obligation on the banks that once you receive someone's monies, each licensee of the BOJ have an obligation, a duty, to make sure that the monies, once it comes into the bank, is kept safe.
Deputy Governor at the Bank of Jamaica, Dr. Jide Lewis, responded, explaining that the relative regulations cover price and financial stability.
Within the BSA, there is provision that allows the supervisor to essentially ensure that the governance framework within each bank is robust and that their internal control environment allows them to identify, measure, determine sources of fraud, and then to treat with those.
He also notes the code of conduct that should be followed by banks.
That essentially requires each bank to have a complaints handling framework which allows members of the public, customers, to essentially raise a complaint with the bank in relation to sums of monies that may have been lost while transacting with the institution. Banks are required to respond to that in 45 days, and they are required to do an investigation during that period and respond to the complainant.
Mr. Jackson countered that there was no enforcement in the code of conduct to combat bank fraud.
And basically just a reporting provision. As you acknowledge, there's no enforcement of anything. You require the banks to tell the customers this, and basically you're finished there. That is as far as the code of conduct does. Whether they do it or not, extent to which they comply, if there's no enforcement, then it doesn't mean anything.
He also points to a piece of legislative regulation that speaks to duty of care provision as a way to guarantee protection for customers. But
so the duty of care provision is not an all-encompassing provision where consumer protection is concerned. And I'll tell you why. Not all frauds affect the deposits of a customer. Some frauds affect their loans. Some frauds affect other facilities that they may have with the DTI. The provision around duty of care around the deposits is specifically in relation to ensuring that the funds that persons lodge with the DTI are managed in a way such that when they go to withdraw, they have immediate access to those funds. So the provision is an important provision, but it is not designed as a consumer protection provision.
reporting for the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom Gale.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says Port Royal, the town once dubbed the wickedest city in the pre-colonial era, is a gem in the making. He addressed the matter at a post-cabinet press briefing this week when he was asked about the type of investments to be made in the seaside town to develop it into the cruise shipping hub that it was touted to become years ago.
So we have to make Port Royal into a desired destination with distinct arrangements with boutique ships for direct entry into Port Royal.
He says Port Royal will be the most exciting destination.
It's not there yet, but it's coming.
Meanwhile, responding to a question about increasing incoming flights, Minister Bartlett says he and his team will be attending the Arabian Travel Mart next week.
So we're going to meet with Emirates. We're meeting with Saudia from Saudi Arabia. And there's a new airline that is coming up out of Riyadh in Saudi Arabia that we will be talking with as well.
The tourism minister says he has also been in talks with the Royal Jordanian Airline, Kenya Airline, and the Ethiopian Airline. In the business report, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says Jamaica earned billions of dollars in taxes from the sector in 2023 from 5 different sources. Speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, the minister said the $20 contribution per visitor raked in $59.2 million, or more than 9 billion Jamaican dollars last year.
The TEF fees, you know, the $20 per head, provided $59.2 million last year, or 9.2 billion Jamaican dollars.
Jamaican-based Supreme Ventures plans to expand operations in Ghana, West Africa, through its subsidiary company. While speaking at the Maybury investor briefing on Monday, Supreme Ventures Executive Chairman Gary Peart said the company's partner in the African country, Game Park Limited, was granted a new 10-year license last week. Describing that development as huge, Peart said it means their partner now can put down much deeper lottery routes into the market space. That, he said, will drive material revenues, certainly in the back end of this year. Peart revealed that there are now plans to build out the land-based distribution channels in Ghana, stressing that, quote, so far the greatest value that we've gotten from Ghana is how we can operate. So we have been extracting certain efficiencies that we can get Ghana back into our model here in Jamaica, end quote. Now we have the report on market movements with Denise Williams.
During trading on May 2, 2024, the following companies valued at J500 million or more in assets represent the overall volume leaders on the main market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with 6,748,312 units, amounting to 61.27% of the market volume. Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with 960,224 units, amounting to 8.72% of the total market volume. Carreras Limited with 902,879 units, amounted to 8.2% of the market volume. During trading on May 2nd, 2024 on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the following companies represent the overall volume leaders on the junior stock market, with companies valued at 50 million Jamaican dollars or more in asset value. Dollar Financial Services Limited with 1,645,251 units, amounting to 28.39% of the market volume. Fosrich Company Limited with 1,084,637 units, amounting to 18.72% of the market volume. Spur Tree Spices Jamaica Limited with 810,468 units, amounting to 13.99% of the market volume. Over at the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, trading on May 2nd, 2024, registered a volume of 257,974 shares, crossing the floor of the exchange, valued at $2,856,470 Trinidad and Tobago dollars and 92 cents. The West Indian Tobacco Company Limited was the volume leader with 53,636 shares, changing hands for a value of 535,366 Trinidad and Tobago dollars and 26 cents, followed by Massey Holdings Limited with a volume of 50,181 shares, traded for 213,478 Trinidad and Tobago dollars and 49 cents. Moving from the money moves of investors, executives, and companies, we turn to the Forex market. On May 2, 2024, the Bank of Jamaica reported that US $45.9 million was bought from Forex traders, while US $47.4 million was sold to Forex traders. Buying directly from the Bank of Jamaica, foreign currency traders sold the US dollar for 157.72 and bought the US dollar for 155.67. The difference between the buy and sell rate was $2.15, which represents a profit for Forex traders for every US dollar traded. Canadian Forex traders earned a trading profit of $1.24 from transactions with the Bank of Jamaica. The Canadian dollar was sold for $115.26 and bought for $114.02. For traders looking at the British pound, they pocketed a profit of $8.18, selling it for $197.79 and buying it for $189.61. For our credit report tip of the day, your financial responsibility and money management are critical. Beyond credit-related factors, lenders may also consider the borrower's overall financial management habits, such as budgeting, savings, and avoiding excess debt. Responsible financial behavior demonstrates reliability and reduces the risk of default. And with that, we wrap up today's business report. I'm Denise Williams. Appreciate your company. Stay well informed, stay ahead of the curve. Until our next update, take care.
Thanks, Denise. Before we wrap up the local segment, we have a special feature on one of Jamaica's cultural treasures, Devon House. It is one of Jamaica's most celebrated historic landmarks, built by Jamaica's first black millionaire, George Steeble, back in the late 19th century.
Leave the bustle of New Kingston and enter the driveway into Devon House and be immediately transported into a world of serene grandeur and sensory delights. Forget the noisy honking horns and the bustling concrete jungle. Drink in the manicured lawns, lush foliage, and superbly symmetrical gardens. as you feast your eyes on a magnificent mansion adorned in white like a bride for her groom. Your welcome party includes a variety of shade trees, from mahogany to pui to lignum vitae and poinciana, with balmy breezes as well as the friendly and knowledgeable tour guides who will give you the history of the grand edifice. Along the royal palm-lined driveway, if you close your eyes, you might be transported to a time when horse-drawn carriages bore visitors to the venue to wine and dine. The majestic fountain sits in front of George Stibble's mansion, and when lit at nights, it's a sight to behold. With the mountains as a backdrop, you can pause on the wrap-around veranda and drink in the view from near and far. The tour guides are knowledgeable, courteous, and efficient in imparting the rich history of the mansion.
Those are the counters, a little pretty name for wine bottle, and then you have your water jug and so forth.
Once inside, visitors will be in awe of the exquisite fretwork and the intricately carved balustrade that have withstood the test of centuries. The view from the balcony upstairs is worth the trip, and the antique furnishings and fixtures provide some knowledge of the lifestyle enjoyed by the mansion's first occupants. There are still some of the utensils they used, and their portraits at the entrance to the living room are preserved for posterity. Most of the furniture and the grand staircase were made of mahogany, lumber that has withstood the test of time. Step back in time through the Palm Hall, so named because of the paintings that adorn the walls above the parquet flooring, that date back to 1930 and made from Jamaican locust tree, also known as stinking toe. Also of note, here are the 17th century brass chandelier and the French marble clock made of brass and alabaster. Like other rooms of the mansion, the dining room also features interesting pieces like the Chinese Chippendale table and the Hepplewhite sideboards. The furniture in the living room and the games room are equally exquisite with interesting stories behind them. The tour will no doubt leave visitors in awe of the grandeur and luxury of the time, and provide a wealth of unfamiliar items to learn about, as these have now been replaced by modern amenities. 4-poster beds, bidets, and washstands were staples in mansions and great houses, but today these are collector's items. The mansion also has a writing room, tea room, and a grand ballroom. The latter contains some interesting pieces, including a gramophone and crystal chandelier. From the ballroom, the tour takes you to the vestibule, where people once relaxed. At the end of the tour, enjoy a cool drink at one of our bars, or cool down with our signature Devon House ice cream. The story of the mansion will remain in your minds for many months to come.
In regional news, St. Lucia's Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has expressed strong support for the rebirth of regional carrier Liat, highlighting its potential to address the pressing issue of flagging regional airlift. More details in this report.
The government of Antigua and Barbuda is gearing up to inject vitality into inter-island travel by linking the Northern Caribbean with increased air capacity via Liat 2020. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre says St. Lucia is closely monitoring this initiative with keen interest.
Prime Minister of Antigua, he has gone into a partnership, or the government of Antigua has gone into a partnership with an African airline. They want to launch Liat 2020. St. Lucia has not got involved in terms of put in any finances. What St. Lucia is doing, St. Lucia, we are monitoring. I'm talking to the Prime Minister of Antigua.
Led by Antigua's Prime Minister, Gaston Brown, in collaboration with Africa's premier airline, Air Peace. This partnership marks a groundbreaking moment in regional aviation, heralding a new era of inter-island travel. Air Peace, acclaimed as one of Africa's foremost privately owned airlines, has expressed a strong interest in expanding its footprint in the Caribbean. With a fleet exceeding 38 aircraft and a workforce surpassing 3,000 employees, the airline is poised to make a significant impact on the region's aviation landscape.
Very soon, when they're ready, because they have not invited anyone yet. In fact, they haven't invited anyone formally. But when things are ready, when the share structure is organized, St. Lucia will look at it, we'll look at the feasibility. But all I can tell you is we need to improve air travel in this country. We have to. And so we're going to look at the feasibility and see what can come from there.
Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has been a strong champion for bolstering regional travel and airlift capacity within the region. Liat 2020 is gearing up for demonstration flights across key destinations to showcase its operational readiness.
The world of virtual reality is becoming increasingly popular in Trinidad and Tobago and serves not just entertainment uses, but multiple others. Sherilyn Lewis tells us more.
When you think about virtual reality, all that comes to mind is video games. But VR contributes to many fields such as design, real estate, security, workplace training, and the medical field like physical therapy. So what is VR really?
So virtual reality is being in a space that is simulated. It's not real. And we use technology to do this. So the normally used devices would be worn on your face. It covers your eyes. The different technologies that are used to make this a reality, no pun intended, is really, really amazing. Firstly, these devices would need to map the space that you're in. So it actually looks at the room and records every dynamic of it, so that whatever movement you make, it knows, and it knows the space that it's in.
According to Rondell, VR and its many uses are becoming much more popular locally.
Let's talk about the reception. VR in Trinidad, trying to push it to a market that is not too inclined to technology. How has that been?
Well, it's been around for a long time. You know, in the international space, it's been around for a while. In Trinidad, I would say that it has become a lot more popular within the last three years or so.
Rondell says while his business thrives on VR for entertainment, he's open to lending that support towards VR in education.
We don't only provide games that are based mainly for entertainment. We do have educational games. One of my favorite games that I still play on a regular, it's called Mission ISS. And this puts you on the International Space Station, and you actually become an astronaut and have to complete a couple tasks and stuff like that. And that in itself, I think, is, you know, it opens up the entire other aspect of this technology that is virtual reality. It can be used for any type of educational purpose.
Virtual reality continues to come across as out of this world. That said, virtual reality is projected to have the highest potential for growth given how widespread the technology is and how much value it adds across industries.
In sports, we open the innings with cricket. The West Indies A team has responded in fine style to the opening series loss to Nepal with a series clinching victory in the fourth unofficial T20 International.
On the heels of 2 successive wins in the Himalayas, Roston Chase and his men put in another solid batting performance when they won the toss and elected to bat first. The Spiceman Andre Fletcher was amongst the runs again with 84 not out, which featured 9 fours and 4 sixes. Johnson Charles followed up his century in Game 3 with an entertaining 58 as he went over the ropes 6 times to complement 3 boundaries. Fabian Allen chipped in with a useful 33 not out as the Windies reached 209 for 3 in their allotment of 20 overs. Nepal put in a credible fight in the chase led by captain Rohit Paudel, who scored 82 with 7 fours and 5 sixes, but his was the only score over 20 as they could only amass 181 for all out in exactly 20 overs. Hayden Walsh and Matthew Ford both captured 3 wickets for 26 and 25 runs respectively. The West Indies A team defeating the Nepal senior squad by 28 runs to win the series 3-1 with a game to spare. That game will be on Saturday from 3:15 a.m. Eastern Caribbean time.
In even more cricketing news, hundreds of Bajans turned up at Kensington Oval Thursday morning to purchase tickets for the highly anticipated 2024 ICC T20 Men's Cricket World Cup. CBC's Anwar Goodridge-Boyce has that story.
From as early as 8:30, 2 hours before the scheduled opening time for the box office, there was a hive of activity outside of the region's Mecca, as locals and tourists wasted no time in queuing up to secure seats for the 9 matches which will be held here in Barbados. However, there were a few hiccups with the ticketing process, leaving some fans who spoke with CBC Sports in the initial stages frustrated.
If it was better organised, I'd be excited because I would have my ticket and I'd be on my way home. But as it happens at the moment, I cannot be excited until I've got the tickets. I don't know what's going to happen when I get there. I've come from England to watch the cricket, and you know it's not what I expected.
Apart from the ticketing issue, though, how excited are you to be in the cricket?
I'm a cricket man, right? So I love the game. That's why I'm here. But yeah, I look forward to seeing the cricket. The match starts and get to the final. I hope the West Indies are there.
This is morning 1, day 1 of the box office. Disaster. Now I've been put off by this. I'm going to go to 1 match and I'll watch the rest on TV. That is not what you wanted. You've not really encouraged the locals. I'm a local, I'm a Bajan citizen. You haven't encouraged us to come to all the matches.
Nevertheless, media operations manager for the World Cup, Philip Spooner, says the ticket issue, which also occurred throughout the region, has now been resolved.
It wasn't smooth sailing at the start, but it's settled down now, and people are really getting into it. We had some excellent staff who were able to deal with those challenges, ensure that everybody got looked after, and now we're settling in, and the process seems a lot more streamlined and a lot better, in terms of the systems. We also had a few challenges in the other countries across the region, but all those are now settled, and it's a comfortable environment for our fans, and our fans are the most important people.
One patron, Solomon Makda, was elated to have his tickets in hand and says he'll be bringing his entire family to the grand final on June 29th.
I got through with my final tickets as well. I'm going to come with the family as well, so I'm really excited to see the World Cup final.
Okay, tell me, are you a big cricket fan?
Yes, of course, I'm a very big cricket fan, and I love cricket from a young time.
What are you excited most about this World Cup?
I would like to see the game which is like between India and West Indies, because my first home team is India and I live in Barbados, so definitely I wanted to see that game. Whoever wins doesn't matter, but I wanted to see this game for sure in Super 8.
That's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. On behalf of our editorial and production teams, thanks for watching.